I'm Linda Birner, and I started the newspaper in 1978, and went to Sac State, got a degree in psychology and minor in communications. Just an activist with NOW, National Women's Political Caucus, and that type of thing was before I started the newspaper. Once I started a newspaper, I was kind of the member of all organizations.
So let's talk about, Cheryl, when you first came to the newspaper, were you there from the very beginning? Or?
No.
Okay, so let's start with how you came to the newspaper.
Let's see.
How and why?
How and why?
Oh yeah, tell me that's the best story.
Yeah, oh
or
my
a very
gosh.
good story.
Talk about reverse. Okay, so I was a victim of reverse discrimination because I was straight. How it happened was, Linda, there was an ad in the newspaper for a typesetter. Sacramento Bee, and it was just a little brief short thing. And I was working for a print shop, which didn't turn out to be what I wanted in a job. And so I went and interviewed with Linda, and we hit it off like this.
We really did. Yeah.
I don't even think we sat down for the interview. I can't remember. We were around one of the paste-up tables or something, but we just stood.
I think I was just giving her a tour. I had a feeling.
We did a lot of bantering and stuff, and it just felt good. And I left there thinking, I got the job. But that call never came. And I was kind of sad. I was sad because I just thought it was a good fit. Anyway, a couple months later, I found myself looking for a job. And so I called Linda. And I said, do you remember me? And she said, I sure do. I was going to call you. And I'm like, you little shit. And I don't know, that was how it started. And, we have had a lot of ups and downs. She, at that time, was very focused on, she had a lot of different roles, not only with the newspaper, but in the community, like we talked about last night. She was on the police committee. I forget what it was called.
Police stuff, yeah.
But a lot of police stuff. She was doing ride-alongs, and there was a lot of other things going on. She also did, I think around the time I started, you were doing the Snow White Ball.
Yeah.
There was just always something in the community that was going on. So it was really difficult for me, one, to learn the job, and two, to get anything done, because I wasn't learning the job. But, it eventually worked out. We had
Cap Pack going on, and we had all these new organizations.
Linda was really involved, and she was really involved in that community. And so she would call me in the morning sometimes and say, oh, I got to blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, we have a deadline. I'll be there. I'm getting ready to go. And she comes in at 5, right? 5 in the afternoon. And I close shop at 6. So, in terms of that.
So why didn't you hire her right away?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry I changed all the subject.
Yeah.
I go up.
Well, I interviewed a couple more people and interviewed one other woman. And she happened to be gay. And so I interviewed her and talked to her about everything, pretty much like I did, everything that we talked about, I talked about, with her. And so I offered her the job, and she took it. And about 2 days later, I discovered she couldn't handle typesetting, and she couldn't handle this office, and she couldn't handle speed, and knowing how to typeset and being a good graphic artist. She didn't know anything about it, so I let her go. So I put the ad back in the Sacramento Bee. The exact same ad. The exact same person read the ad. And called me, and I think her words were, was this reverse discrimination? And I don't even think she said it was Cheryl. I just... Yeah. Knew it was her, and especially with that phrase, I thought, oh God, here comes the lawyers.
It's not on my bucket
Yeah.
list now.
Yeah, no, I didn't really think that, but I thought, boy, they sure could have. You know, it would have been one of the first cases of that kind of thing.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
interesting.
And we had quite a few straight people. You know, wasn't Sonia Cox straight?
I don't know.
I think she
I
was.
think she was.
Yeah, quite a few straight people.
Yeah.
That,
There were a couple. We had a couple of graphic artists
yeah,
that were straight.
yeah.
Yeah, I think people were just interested in being, a part of it.
Is that how you felt?
It got to the point where, at first, it was really special to me, and I come from a very conservative family. My husband and I are the odd people out, and I did not tell my parents that I worked for Linda for 5 years or so, and I did it in a letter.
You did?
Yeah, I did it in a
So
letter.
you had your own mom, guess what?
I had my own mom, guess what? And my parents called me crying and saying, why didn't you feel like you could tell us? And part of that story was that as I told friends, moms that I went, worked in the PTA with, and I lost friends. They were
Were they your
so,
friends?
yeah, they were, well, I thought they were so narrow-minded. And I just don't need that kind of person in my life. I'm not that way. So, I think in that respect, at that point, it didn't feel like a job anymore. Linda was family. She was the grandma of my puppies.
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah, and,
She got a puppy for Christmas.
Well, yeah, Linda, Fred, my husband Fred and Linda were in on it. They kept it a secret, and Linda came over to the house.
A schnauzer?
Schnauzers, yeah.
Schnauzer, yep, Schnauzer, and then that was a shock. And then there was a tragedy with that puppy, and I can't remember if I called Linda or what, but
Yeah, you called me right away.
did I call you or did Fred call? One of us.
One of you called.
Anyway, Linda brought another puppy over right away. One that she was going to keep. So, I mean, to me, it's family. It became family at that, I mean, way before then, but, and we had our ups and downs. We fought.
Kind of like a family.
Yeah. Like sisters, just kind of boom, boom, boom. But,
And with the puppy, when she told me that the first puppy
Bogey,
had died,
yeah, Bogey.
I drove over there with another puppy.
That day.
Yeah, that day, because I still had one for sale. It was perfect.
Yeah, that was
Not that it was
hysterical.
perfect, but
Yeah.
I was so glad that
Yeah, me
she
too.
could have a baby.
Yeah, we too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And anyway, so that's, for me, it just became kind of like, I mean, of course it was a job, but it was also more than a job. And
So it changed your life then in many ways, not only
oh, yeah, definitely. We always, like, my husband and I have 2 boys. And Linda was really good. She let me, when I when I didn't have a babysitter, when daycare fell through, I took the kids to work with me. And, we used to have
Puppy days.
puppies. We had
Always
puppy
had the
days.
dogs.
There were playpens set up with the puppies. And, that's...
So we put the kids in that.
We did one. There was a little, the office that we had a couple of little they were closets, but one of them was set up and had some tables and stuff. So it was a good place to, the kids could go in there and they could play or do whatever they wanted to do. And, but they were exposed at a very early age to the gay and lesbian community. And today they're still very open-minded and at times they're like, they laugh at me because I'm so like, I can't believe this is happening now. And they're like, seriously, Mom, are you not watching the news kind of thing? But, like last night, it was so moving to hear this, like I said, hear the stories and stuff again, and just things that I knew, and to see people up there just, pioneers. And you know, when you're working and doing stuff, you don't really think of it in that terms. I mean, I knew that
Not at
about
all.
Linda. I knew that about you, right? That you were a pioneer. But you take that I took that for granted after a while.
Yeah.
You know?
I didn't think we'd be sitting in a history center ever.
No, that never crossed my mind.
Yeah.
But I always, in the front office, we had I forget who signed the resolution, but we had a resolution from the state capitol.
Oh, that was Phil Eisenberg, the first one we got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always remembered that, and that always hung in the
Had,
front
had
office.
a gold frame.
Yeah, it was, and that was always a reminder to me, when I'm just kind of sitting there getting frustrated and stuff, you look at that and you go, okay, cool, yeah, remember this.
I'm curious, you said your parents were upset that you hadn't told them. How did that end up?
Well, it was an interesting phone call. I can't remember what birthday it was. It was probably getting close to one of my earmark birthdays, milestone birthday, like maybe 35 or something. And I had been in therapy for a long time, many, many years. And I really had an issue with my parents anyway about feeling like I just didn't belong in the family. Like I was always somebody that, I just like, how did I get to be with these people?
Mom would put her down at times and not listen to her.
But this was a thing that needed to be resolved. And so my therapist said, might be a good idea for you to write them a letter. If you can't talk to them, write it. And so what I did was, I drew a circle, and I drew my family, immediate family, and I put myself out here. And I said, this is you, Mike, and Gary, and this is me. I have always felt like an outsider. And I'm telling you this because this is what my boss, Linda, does. This is who she is, and this is what I do. And they called me crying. Just like, why didn't you feel like you could tell us? Oh, my dad was pretty bigoted back in those days. And my mom was the same. And so it just wasn't something that I could say that I felt comfortable, saying.
Did you say it on the phone call?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did.
And how did they take that?
They cried. They cried.
Did you get to talk it out at all?
We talked it out later. But even my brothers didn't know, and I finally worked up the courage to tell them. My one brother is really he's uber conservative, and he just like, why would you do that, sis? And I'm like, why not? Right? Why not?
Did you tell them about your experiences?
Yeah, I did. I did. And when I look back and some of the things that we did, it just seems like it was, when I look back at my life, I think that was really in my character to be that person. And they, after you talk it out, after you sit down and have a conversation, they're like, yeah, we could see that you would do that. So, yeah.
And do you have a good relationship with your family now?
Well, I take care of my mom. She's 92. My dad passed away several years ago. My brothers, it's contentious. Not, just because I'm taking care of my parents, our mom. I'm sorry, I'm tongue-tied. Anyway, totally off subject, but, it's still the same. Can't have a discussion about politics because there's going to be the opposite side of the fence.
Since they watch the news a lot, how do they feel about all the trans news? Do they ever make comments now?
Yes, and my mother does too.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, she does. And you know, it's a problem. It's not going to go away anytime soon unless we work on getting it taken care of.
Right.
So, just like anything else,
Yeah.
right? The people in Washington or at the state capitol, they're not doing it.
Yeah.
You know better than anyone.
Took a long time.
Yeah.
Well, and it's still happening.
Yeah.
And now we have another chapter.
Yeah, that's what I really liked about what Rosemary was saying last night.
Yeah.
Just, you know, it's like you can't take your life today for granted. You know, all that stuff that's going on in Florida and spreading all through the South is really frightening.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're doing and how they're getting away with it. It's like, these are people's human rights, you know, but they feel they're in a political power. So hopefully the younger generation will get on board and
Yeah.
fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is important for the two of you, as that a generation understands that they have to participate and they have to do something.
Yeah.
And so, and even you, just with your family, making a point of, this is who I am and this is where I'm going to work.
Yeah.
And is making a statement and
Yeah.
moving that forward of removing the other category.
Yeah.
They are the other instead of these are human beings.
Yeah.
So that dialogue, and I think that that's what Rosemary was like, we have to, it's really easy to make somebody the other.
Yes.
It's very easy. And oftentimes in politics, when we make someone the other, we garner support because people feel insecure. And if I make them my problem, it's not my problem.
Yeah.
So, and then what you did with your newspaper to try to show that gay and lesbian people are people, you know, and everything that the newspaper did to do that.
We revolted.
You disrupted.
Disrupted. That's the word I was trying to say. Same thing.
Kind of, yeah.
No.
Disruptive is a better word.
Yeah, it is. I was just trying to think of what it was, but okay. Yeah.
So beyond your family and the people who, did they just stop talking to you once? Because I think that's an interesting circumstance as someone who's straight working in support of a gay and lesbian newspaper, how that's impacted on them and how you know, you made that decision and how you feel that impacted your life.
I believe, you know, living in the burbs as we do, I think that a lot of people that aren't aware, they weren't aware back in the 80s and early 90s. Well, even later than that, quite frankly. But fear, like the fear. I remember somebody asking me if I was afraid I was going to get AIDS. And I thought, I'm not having sex with anybody. You know? I mean,
you haven't knocked over any test tubes, you know.
Yeah.
Nothing, you haven't been around anything.
It just like people, I felt like sometimes I was educating people I mean, it wasn't lecturing or anything. It was just like, look, this is Linda's life. You know, this is her life. The guys that worked with us, I can't tell you the number of friends I made. And it was so nice to see a few of them last night, you know, and even though we didn't get the chance to talk, we acknowledged each other. I still have friends that I made from the newspaper that I keep in touch with. And I don't know, I just feel like, I think friends of mine who reacted this way, as you indicated, they weren't really friends. And they just couldn't understand, didn't want to understand. But I think the bottom line was they were afraid, really and truly afraid, you know, and so we had some crazy things happen. And
Did you talk about that?
yeah, we did. I had one friend in particular that I really confided in because I wouldn't let my husband know what was going on because I didn't want him, because at that time in our marriage, he would have yanked me out of there. He would have said no. But, yeah, and I confided in her. And I don't know, our relationship, that friend had been a really good friend, and she just stopped returning phone calls and breaking lunch dates and things like that. So, it's like, okay.
You confided in her that you were working there?
I confided in her that some of the things that were happening.
Can you describe the things that were happening?
Bricks through the front window. I think I had mentioned before, we had, back at the shop where we had, there was like at the time there was a abandoned building across the street, and there was like neo-Nazi people living there. And we would get threats, bomb threats. People would call and say, you know, there's a bomb out underneath the tree, or you just never knew. Back in that, as time went on, you become almost numb to it, and it's just like, okay, we're just doing this and blah blah blah. But I would say the first half year, but I didn't tell my husband about it. He didn't know about it. He knows about it now, but but the friends that I would tell, they're just like, why, why are you still there? And I'm like, because I like it. I feel like I'm doing something.
Making a difference.
Well, I don't know that I made a difference.
Well, you were helping the process.
Well, I know I made a difference in her life. I was the nag.
No, she wasn't.
Get in there and edit. Oh, we got a deadline.
Read more of that stuff.
Yeah. Faster. Anyway, but people, they would write things on the front window. I can't even remember.
Yeah, we got spray painted a couple times.
Spray painted, just nasty
What would
stuff.
they say?
I don't remember. But
one of them was when we were at S and 14th. We had a big picture window, and it just said AIDS in red spray paint, really big. That's all it said.
Yeah, I think if I remember right, there was a couple of times when derogatory words were put across the. We had in the office that we were on L Street. We had a big front window, and my counter, my desk, that was what I looked out. And I know a couple of times I'd be in the office by myself in the morning, and that's when those people were, they just kind of pop in the door and make a comment, and not a nice comment. And you're sitting there drinking your coffee going, I'm just sitting here minding my own business. And who do you think you are, But I guess that empowered them some way, made them feel more powerful. I don't know. Once they destroyed that building, it went away. It's like they were out of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So we didn't get it as much. Then we started getting a lot of homeless people. Poor guys. Linda's like, don't give them anything. Let me give you a cup of coffee. It
encourages them. They come more often.
I'm always out there with a cup of coffee, or here, take my lunch or my breakfast. But anyway, But yeah, there were threats. There were things like that, and not being exposed to that stuff before, it was scary, because I'd never thought, like, why would that happen? Linda's living her life. She's running a business. Why would people be threatening? I think things like, I remember the flag on the Capitol. And that, to me, like, when I saw that again, it just was like, it was moments like that. There were a lot of moments like that. Mostly they were about pride things. I
Well, and
believe.
sometimes we would have famous people walk into the office, politicians.
That's true. That's true.
And she talked to them at the front counter.
And you would be like, you're just trying to be cool, and of course I'm not a cool person. And
The governor's standing right in front of me.
yeah, and I'm kind of like, but the things that stick out to me are pride things. Like when there was the first gay and lesbian pride fair, that was huge. I took the kids. We had a booth.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, right.
And it was just kind of like, whoa, here we are.
Yeah.
You know, and we had all kinds of stuff. Memorabilia and old new back issues and things like that, just to let people know, you know. I tend to remember those stories more than anything in specific politically. The other thing that I remember very clearly are Sonia Cox's articles about the HIV and the AIDS community, the Hand to Hand Project, when the AIDS quilt came through. She was really involved in that. Those are the kinds of things that I remember, you know.
And Cleve Jones was working for us at the time, who started the AIDS quilt. And so Sonia and he were
Yeah.
very, very active in that. And ended up, Cleve, I think, left for San Francisco or LA.
Yeah,
or,
he was.
You know, because it was growing so fast.
Yeah, it was.
He had to change the whole venue. And
Oh my gosh, it was huge.
Yeah.
That was huge. Yeah. And I've lost track of where it is right now. Where is it right now? Do you know?
Probably rolled up in a warehouse someplace. Because it was in the front of the state capitol all the way down to the end of the pond.
Yeah, it was huge. Yeah, it was just at that time.
Yeah, it was all
Anyway.
stretched out.
Yeah. The other thing that sticks out in my mind, besides Sonia's articles, was the calendar, because that was the bane of my existence.
Yeah.
Oh, we get it after.
There's a lot of typesetting changes in it, like point sizes.
Oh my gosh,
and-
we gotta have this in.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2 lines of type, but we have to move all of this stuff over on the page.
But it was important.
Yeah, it was. To her, it was really
Well,
important.
but last night, that was one of the things that people talked about.
And
was the
that,
calendar.
exactly. And so it was kind of nice to hear that, even if it's 20-something years later, to hear that, because
Yeah.
it was like, okay, Linda was right. The one time she was right.
You shouldn't be laughing.
I love you, Shane.
I know you do. Anyway, so it was those kinds of things.
So as a straight person, what would you say to other straight people about the LGBT community?
What are you afraid of? These guys are people too. Linda and Christy are people too. Everybody is, they're people. They don't bite. You know, I don't understand what the problem is. I really, I just don't understand. And maybe I'm naive. Maybe I'm,
No, you're not.
I just am, that's just the way I think. I just don't understand why people are afraid or hateful. There's
Maybe more
no
of them
need to
should
be.
work for Linda in the newspaper again.
She was not always the easiest person to work for, but you can edit that out if you want. I think it was hard, our relationship, because it was just her and I. And everybody else, volunteers floated in, advertising reps floated in and out. So it was always just her and I.
You got a lot on your shoulders then.
Yeah, because if she wasn't there, it was on me. And I remember...
Well, and the front door was in front of her.
And-
There was
yeah.
a big counter, and then her desk was further back. So she greeted everybody.
Yeah, and I think so. I think that I have worked in large corporations. I have worked in city government, this working one-on-one with somebody was the best working relationship I had, because I could tell her she was open. Well, she would listen, not necessarily be open to what I was saying, but she would listen.
Wouldn't necessarily do.
And then she'd close her door.
I never close the door.
Oh, yes, you did. Anyway, but I think if there were a time and a place that somebody had the opportunity to work for a gay newspaper or an openly gay business and they were straight, my question is, why not?
Be fun.
Yeah. I had much more fun working at MGW, even though it was really stressful, than I did in any of the other jobs that I had. So, there you have it.
You had to meet famous people.
Yeah, but what sticks out in my mind is other stuff. It's not meeting famous people. It's just the other stuff.
Well, you also got really close to a lot of people. You made a lot of friends.
I did make I made a lot of friends.
And you're still hanging out with some of them.
I hang out with them remotely, yeah. They're across the country now, but, and there were times when things didn't go so well with people that came, that worked at the paper. And so, and I think a lot of that had to do with because just the nature of the beast, right? You're in an environment where you're just accepted. You're accepted for who you are. And there was a couple times when we had people that took advantage of that. And it was really hurtful and quite frankly surprising, that somebody that we trusted with, that was doing the accounting completely ripped us off. That to me was like, just how the hell could you do that? We're all fighting the same fight here. So how could you rip us off? But it happens.
And the person I think you're thinking, I can't remember his name, but he was a real central part of the community.
Yeah, he was. He was.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very shocking what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
I mean, we couldn't believe it.
I know, yeah. Just.
Did you go away?
To jail.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah, we fought. Called the police, had him arrested, and we made sure he went to jail.
He wasn't really smart about going about what he did.
Yeah.
He may have thought he was really smart because we weren't catching on. And, when I did the bookkeeping, I always, wanted the deposit receipt with the photocopies of the checks. And he'd say, oh, I lost it. There was always an excuse why that deposit receipt wasn't there. Well, he was depositing, even though it was stamped with the newspaper's, account number and stuff on it. He was cashing this stuff out. It was terrible. But, again, it's like, how could you steal from your own? I mean, that to me, we're all struggling here. So, anyway, fighting the same fight.
I forgot all about that one.
That was my first time ever, like, with somebody embezzling money or anything like, or stealing or whatever it was that he eventually went to jail for. But that was like an eye opener for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me too. That was the first time for me.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe that somebody would do that to us.
Well,
we're small. We're a little business.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that?
Yeah. Well, and I think also just because of the nature of the beast, because it was such a welcoming. We were always, people were always volunteering, and they'd come and, then they'd get bored and they'd move on to something else. But we did have a lot of volunteers, and it was a very open, welcoming place. And so for something like that to happen was,
Yeah, I forgot about that.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it was just the two of you for so long. That's putting out a newspaper that size. That's a lot.
Well, there's people coming and going.
People came and went.
Yeah, dropping off things, picking up things, coming in to help for a while. They
Yeah.
have like Frank in the beginning, he only had Tuesdays, and so we would save things for him to do on Tuesday.
Yeah. There were always people coming and going because everybody contributed something.
Mm-hmm.
And we did have, every once in a while, there was somebody that came in as a graphic artist who pasted up the paper, because back in the day we used a waxer. It was the old school.
X-Acto knife.
Yeah, X-Acto knife, just strips on the board. You know, they did paste it and put the ads together and did things like that. But
Were you the main person coordinating that?
yeah, called, and I was the person that called people and said, okay, deadline, this is deadline, we need your column by XYZ. And, you know, like the graphic artist wasn't there full time. And so I'd make the, you know, the arrangements for the dates that they needed to be there. But, you know, I was the person you got when you called in. I don't know, chief cook and bottle washer.
Well, and like Sonia Cox would get upset because we chopped off some of our articles.
Yeah.
But she would get the, Cheryl would get the brunt
was
of
the
it.
person
Because
that
it'd be a
got
phone call from Sonia.
the letters to the editor or something. Something always, we just didn't have room. It was 24 pages, and we sometimes we went over, but we just didn't have room, and so stuff had to get cut. And it's really hard when you're so you've invested so much time writing an article, Sonia so much. And when the newspaper came out, she was there picking up. She wanted her copies of the paper. The first thing she'd do was go to see where her column was, and two, what got cut out, and the discussions. And she had a really hard time understanding. And I think a lot of our contributors that were like that, they didn't understand why their stuff had to get cut. Why it was cut. But if you look at the whole scope of things, there was so much stuff in the paper, you can only fit so much in so many pages. So,
Well, plus you had advertisers. Did you have classifieds?
we had classified,
Okay.
yeah, we had classified, we had advertisers. The calendar, again, took up a lot of pages. But there were other things going on. We did have letters to the editor, and there was always like one or two really heavy news articles, and then there was some lightweight stuff. We had one guy who, I think he did once a month. He did like a about town kind of thing. John Bachelor, yeah.
Like
He
a
did,
fun column.
yeah.
Name dropping kind of column.
Yeah. So, and he did that. That was once a month. And his stuff, he got cut too. There were people that contributed regularly and there were always book reviews. Linda had so many books that were, publishing houses and stuff that they
Shipping
gave.
them to us.
They
We were
gave.
getting 5 and 6 a day.
Yeah.
All newspapers do.
But
crazy.
But in the beginning, there were no gay authors.
Yeah.
We could probably count the ones. But
least
then
that
once
you
it
knew of.
started happening, oh my God.
Book reviews. We had so many people reviewing books and stuff because we couldn't keep up. And the reviews would get cut really short so that we'd get more book reviews in.
And or we'd have a special issue where we had more of them. We'd still cut them, but put more, have a whole pull out, like 8 pages
Yeah,
of it or
yeah.
something. And mostly, I think we did it so we felt like we were getting caught up.
Well, and that's true too, because you've got to send proof of publication
Yeah.
to the publishing houses. It's like just like an advertiser, you got to send proof of publication. So anyway, yeah, it's interesting to talk about. It makes me want to go back to work. Yeah, it does. It does. But that this kind of job is only going to happen once in a life. It doesn't. I could never go back and have this kind of job experience again. You know, last night, I've known Linda for so long, but last night was the first time in a long time I could say, I'm really proud of her. I was really proud of her. And I just felt like, I don't think she realizes how much I love her, but I really do.
I do realize it. I realize that we both love each other a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're on my mind a lot. I sometimes think, well, I wonder what Cheryl would think of this. Or,
Yeah.
I mean, you're in my life.
Yeah.
And you're in my brain,
Yeah.
you're in my heart.
Yeah. That goes the same way.
Yeah.
So, and it was just because I answered a 2-line ad in Sacramento Bee, right? What job is going to give me that?